All Communications provides equal opportunities for all legally qualified political candidates in accordance with FCC regulations. If you are a candidate for public office and would like to request equal time regarding content that has aired, please contact our station directly. We will be happy to work with you to schedule appropriate airtime. For more information, please reach out to the station office. 860-456-1111.
Welcome to Right Now with Mike DeSaunier, Curtis Ayler, and Chris Reddy. We are here in studio today with another special guest in our municipal election programming series that we have going on for the next few weeks. We have with us a candidate that you might recognize from last year's state representative race for the 54th district in Mansfield. He took no time off from campaigning and is right back in it running this year for town council in the town of Mansfield. We have with us Aaron Bowman. Welcome, Aaron.
Hey, welcome, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in Mansfield just about 3 years now. Grew up in Tallinn, did 20 years in the Air Force Air National Guard, 20 years with the Department of Corrections, was a canine handler, retired last year, right before we started running for office, and currently a state central representative for the 29th Senate District out in the Quiet Corner, and currently running for town council in Mansfield.
Excellent. So before we start talking about some Mansfield issues here, your state central representative position is new this year.
It is.
You and Chris Coyle are two state representatives for the 29th Senatorial District. And one of the things that you guys kind of spoke about early on in the process was how important it is for us to work together in that senatorial district collaboration with all the other RTCs, because that's where we're going to start to win elections here. Can you kind of talk to us a little bit about that and what your feelings are and moving forward with the state central representative position?
Yeah, so that was the plan, trying to get the messaging out, because I think a lot of Republicans have a hard time talking to non-Republicans about why they're passionate about being a Republican, or dare I use the word conservative. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of unaffiliated and independent voters and lean Democrats in the area that feel like their party is leaving them behind. So we have to figure out how to cross that bridge, and that's where we bring in the Frederick Douglass messaging in Lincoln. And we were making some good headway across the 29th, kind of bringing that to the RTCs, and then municipal elections started. And then it kind of like the train came off the track, because we have to try to go out to the meetings to meet with people. We were trying to get the digital ops team up and running, and we had a few volunteers for that. So we would make calls in one town, then another town through the Right Impact app. I think going forward, and Chris and I have talked about this a little bit, it's a little too hard municipality-wise to get everybody kind of working together. It's more at the state level for the Senate or the House positions where I think we're going to see more of that cohesiveness coming together, and we can really start working as a whole district instead of individual towns.
If I can jump in on that really quick, I'm actually really grateful that you took over in the 29th there with Chris Coyle and brought some of that messaging to our towns. It was your time that you spent coming to each town, including Windham, and talking about unified messaging, talking about focusing on towns that are beautiful, affordable, and safe. When I go door to door, like we've been doing these last 3 weeks, campaigning here in Windham, that's the messaging, that's the focus that people are resonating with, and that you took the time with Chris Coyle to come to each of these towns to be spreading that information, spreading that messaging, has been immensely helpful to me. And it's just true. It's core to who we are and our values as conservatives and what we do here at the local level. So I have nothing but thanks for you and gratitude for that.
Oh, I'm glad it's helping. And it is one of those things where you have to bring that messaging there. And, you know, like we started it where we were going to every single RTC, and then the following month we'd meet at a centralized location, and we try to get the RC chairs and their vice chairs out to kind of meet and greet people, because probably nobody can pick my RTC chair out of a lineup in Mansfield, let alone who the RTC chair is in Killingly. So it was nice to try to get people together like that. And not everybody can make it. I get it. We're all busy, especially right now with the municipal elections. But it is just a different way of doing things, so we can start taking the best practices. And that's something that came up at a GOP meeting with our state central meetings, and we actually now have I'm on the committee for messaging. And so now we're going to start taking what works in all the districts, kind of bringing it together so those state central reps can do their job and bring it to their local RTCs. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, that's great. To move on to some Mansfield
Sure.
topics, why don't you tell us how things are going with your candidacy?
So it's interesting. It's a little bit different running locally than running for the state position. It's a little more turmoil online, so to speak. But other than that, it's been really good. It started off a little rough. I went to the nominating committee. They asked me if I was going to if I'd consider running for town council. I said sure. They were going to run the two incumbents. One who donates to the Democratic Party and the other one just votes with the Democrats on everything. And so they said, well, can you work with them? And I was like, yeah, I can work with anybody to do right, nobody to do wrong, right? Absolutely. Quote from Douglas. Yep. And I knew in my head that they were not going to ask them those same questions. One of them was the RTC chair. I had him step down after the last elections last year, just because of the stuff that he was putting out there. So I'm like, how are you going to run this person again? So I went out and knocked on a bunch of doors through a referendum and last year. And so I've made some contacts with people. Mm-hmm. I'm not the candidate that just showed up, asked for some money, and then I'll see you again in 2 years. So I said, hey, we're having a caucus. You might have seen it in the Chronicle. It was posted. People are like, there's a caucus? What did we do there? And I'm like, well, you're a registered Republican. You can show up. You can vote for the slate. You can not vote for the people they put up there. We can nominate from the floor. And so I guess technically that was a coup I staged. Didn't really realize it when I was doing it. And so we got a bunch of people out there, and the chair said, hey, I was surprised. We had 30-something people. Wasn't a ton. And he goes, I didn't know 90% of the people in there. And I'm like, well, yeah, because we have an outreach problem. We're not engaging with these people. And so we made some nominations from the floor. We changed the slate. The two incumbents are now, they petitioned themselves on, and so they're running. And so we'll see where it goes. They seem to be getting a lot of backing from the Democratic Party in town, which is why they want them there for that super majority. So
yeah, yep. And I think that when you really look at grassroots campaigning, that's what it's about. It's getting your messaging out there and driving people to participate in that civic engagement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've done a good job there. For people to say, you staged some coup, I think that's kind of taking it a little far, because this is the democratic process. You went out, knocked on those doors, talked to those people, gained their confidence in your ability to perform as a candidate, and they backed it up by showing up for you and saying, yeah, we want our voices heard.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And we've had a couple different meet and greets. We had a town hall style last night. Didn't get the turnout we wanted, but the people that showed up were the people that were supposed to be there, is the way I look at it. And we invited the Democrats to come. We tried to set up a debate. That didn't happen. And so we talked a lot about what the Democrats are putting out in their signs. So if you drive through Mansfield, you'll see signs that say Bowman for Mansfield, Charlie Osberger, Gail Zychek, Debbie Paulson, who's running for Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals alternate, I think, something like that. And then you see all the Democratic signs. And it's interesting, because I was driving by as they were handing them out. Like, I knock on every door where one of my signs goes. Right. They just drive around and they just throw the signs in the ground, and people just put them up. And I'm just like, you don't even, like, the candidates aren't even out there talking. It's somebody else. And I found that very odd. And their signs say, vote line A for smart growth. Vote line A for good schools. And so we talked a lot last night about what smart growth is and isn't, and what our good schools are and what they're really not. So if we look at like the good schools aspect of it, sure, if we look at the surrounding towns around us, we have higher test scores. We also have a drop in enrollment. Mm-hmm. We demolished one school, built this new school from the ground up. Now, my daughter's been in this school for 3 years now. She's now a fourth grader. And you can't drink the water, because it's corrosive, slightly corrosive, air quotes for those of you who are listening. There was a noise issue where kids were wearing headphones.
I heard about that, yeah.
They had to bring in a third-party company to bring in felt panels. They had to redo the playground because whoever designed it didn't make it ADA compliant, to the tune of almost just over $500,000. So, yes, our test scores might be good at the surrounding towns, but what are we doing to the environment that our students are in? Mm-hmm. And when we actually look at the numbers, it's between 20 to almost 30% of the kids that leave 8th grade in Mansfield to go to E.O. Smith can't read at grade level. So there's improvements that can be made, and I'm not putting any of this on the teachers. 99% of the time when you look at it, it's the administration that's the problem. And so I just chuckle when I see the signs that say vote line A for Democrat. The Democrat town council is doing nothing with the schools. That's the teachers, the people they hire to educate those students. So I kind of just laugh at it. I'm like, really? Great schools? We have water that you can't drink. It's not a safe environment.
Yeah.
It was built on the highest concentration of radon in the state. So there's mitigation systems, and then I'm like, well, what are we doing? Like, is that really, a good school? And then if you get into the smart growth of things, that's another one where you just kind of sit back and you just kind of shake your head, because smart growth has to do with infrastructure, right? Mm-hmm. So sewer, water, that sort of thing. We're building stuff in town where we don't know where the water is going to be coming from, because we're allotted so much out of the amounts of gallons that come in through Connecticut water. Yeah. Same thing with sewage. We have no sewage plant in Mansfield. It all goes through Yukon.
Correct.
At any point in time, Yukon could say, literally, we're not taking it anymore. What are we going to do then? So I'm all for growth, doing it naturally. A lot of the growth that's going on in town feels artificial and to support Yukon as opposed to Yukon building their own housing.
Correct,
which is a huge issue in the northwest corner.
And we know that northeast corner of stores in Mansfield has had water issue problems in the past. At one point, I owned a house right off of Gurleyville Road, and some of my neighbors that had older, shallower well systems had problems where they would dry up. I know some of that has been mitigated by the water treatment plants that they put into Yukon, and water that is now being brought into Yukon. But there was a time where the Fenton River was dried right out.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So, that's always been a problem. As you're out there talking to some of the residents of Mansfield as part of your campaign here, what are some of the issues that they're really talking about? What are some of their big concerns?
So we have a state road, South Eagleville to 275, I think is the route, and the town is paying to put in street calming measures. Not the state, but the town's taxpayers are paying for this money. And so they're narrowing the roads because a few years back an international student was killed. I think there was 2 kids that were killed on that road. There was no flashing lights and they just built that South Eagleville on the green. Yep. And so they want to put in these calming measures, and it was sold to the people in town, hey, this is going to be like a boulevard. The fire department, people in the fire department have come out and said, we're not getting anything down there if a car breaks down. Yep. We're going to have to go all the way around because now they've got this median that they're putting in. That bothers a lot of people in town. One, why are we spending the money on it when it's a state road and the state's not doing it? And 2, why are we putting in sidewalks and stuff like that? So between that and not really being good stewards of our wetlands, because a lot of people don't like the standard because it's literally got water lapping up against the parking garage. Yes. And there's underwater reservoir there and stuff like that, and they're concerned environmental-wise. So that's something that I've seen being on the Conservation Commission, and that's one of the other things is the amount of building that's being done, and it's they say it's low to moderate income housing. It's all student housing. You go through there, there's Porsches, Lamborghinis. I think there was a pink Porsche there the other day, and it's just like, okay, well, it's for the students. If we're going to build it for the students, let's just call it student housing. Why are we going to put this facade on it that is for the residents and it's not? So those are some of the big things.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point because there was just an article that talked about student housing in Yukon and how we've known that this has been a problem for literally many decades. There has not been enough housing, and you kind of knew as a Yukon student, you come in, you get housing for your freshman, your sophomore year, and then all of a sudden you're without. They already have you there. You've been there for a couple of years already. Now it's time for you to find housing. What that's done in the area around the store's campus to those neighborhoods has been a dramatic change. Oh, yeah. I mean, those are no longer residential houses with families and kids that are in there. They're rentals, and they're rentals where they're packing 6, 8, 10 kids into some of those houses. And
I thought the house next to us. Now, I can't see my neighbors. Well, the leaves are coming off the tree, so I might be able to see them now. And I always thought it was a family that lived over there. And then a week ago, I went to open up the window because it was nice out. I thought there was a rave in my backyard. It was so loud. And I was like, what is going on? I looked out, and there was a bonfire. There's kids yelling and screaming. You hear drunk guys falling down. And I'm like, oh, that's a rental. I'm like, okay. So I gave it a while. And now I've got my youngest is 10. My oldest is 18. And kids are going to bed. And I'm like, okay, it's 12:30. Like, can we just quiet it down a little bit? Like, I can't, like, my daughter's hearing it in her room with the window shut. That's how loud this music was.
Yeah.
And so I was that guy. I was like, okay, I'm making a phone call now. Like, enough's enough. And it went on to 3:30 in the morning, or about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, because I finally fell asleep. My wife still heard it. And so when I called Troop C, I was like, hey, listen, can you just, like, send somebody over? Just, I don't mind them partying. They're not really bothering me, except my kids can't go to sleep because of the noise. Can you just, he goes, we'll put you on the list.
Wow.
I go, a list? He goes, yeah, it's pretty busy. He goes, we'll try to get there. And I'm like, so there's that many parties going on in town where there's that many calls coming in that they can't even keep up with it. Which, I mean, I know people are going to listen to this and be like, oh, he's against, students and everything like that. I'm all for the students being there. They should have a voice in the community. That's one of, when we talk about the Mansfield Way, proven principles and Mansfield values, it's that community voice. Whether you've been there 3 semesters or 50 years, your voice kind of helps shape the direction that the town goes in. And I'm all for that. But at the same time, you have to think of the people that live there year round. And if you can't have your bedroom window open because there's a rave in your backyard, that's kind of a problem,
True. And from my experience as a paramedic in this area, and part of my service area was all of Mansfield, including the University of Connecticut. So I spent many, many nights on the weekends driving through that campus. And there are times where, like you said, South Eagleville Road, packed with pedestrians. Hunting Lodge Road, which is definitely not a road meant for pedestrians to be walking the street. They put the sidewalks in that are separated from Hunting Lodge Road there. But kids are still walking down the middle of the street.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That causes problems for first responders that are trying to get in there for somebody who is having an emergency. It makes for a very dangerous situation for people in town. And it adds to the call volume substantially for Mansfield Fire Department. Like you said, the state police, which already is 300 troopers short of their quota for employment right now. So that's where your long list comes from.
Oh, yeah.
We're waiting for that. And you do bring up a good point that a huge portion of Mansfield as residents are UConn students.
Right.
Now, when you look at it, Mansfield says right on their website that they have a year-round resident population of about 13,000. But when you add into another 13,000 students that are living off campus in the town of Mansfield, you see how dramatic a number like that can be on the community.
Oh, it sure can.
So, and especially when it's a small community, like when you look at some other really large universities that have housing issues like this, and a couple of them come to mind, like ASU, Arizona State University, they're in a city of 1 million people where you can be absorbed into that. Here in Mansfield, you are literally 50% of the town population being students that live off campus.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're trying to, that was an ag. It's still technically an ag college.
Yeah,
and because of the sports and everything like that, it's blown up, and they just won't cap their student enrollment, and it really ends up being put on the back of the residents that live there, and the town doesn't have that infrastructure. You're trying to build a city where there's no city infrastructure. We have no connecting highways. We know on and off ramps. We're a small rural town. I know I'm not supposed to use that word because our mayor says it's code word for white Anglo-Saxon, but
I remember that.
It is what it is. We're a small farming community, and
this whole end of the state is we're the last
exactly.
Green Valley, and many of these towns depend on farming and agriculture as one of their main tax bases.
Yeah, yep.
For industry. Good. To kind of add ask a couple of other questions here related to Mansfield. We have about 6 or 7 more minutes until our first commercial break here. Starting earlier this year, Mansfield's kind of advertised that they are looking to put together a 10-year development plan that they're calling Mansfield Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have you been following along with that? And
a little bit.
Kind
the POCD they're redoing and things like that. I've seen a little bit of it being on the Ag Committee and the Conservation Commission. Again, when you look at it, there's a lot of great stuff in there, but we're still not doing that stuff that was put in there all those years ago. So why are we trying to add more stuff to it? Let's just try to get to the stuff that we initially said we wanted to do.
Right.
So I've been following a little bit, not as much as I would probably like to right now with the door knocking and State Central stuff and all that. But it is interesting what they're trying to do. They have their opportunity zones. So the standard Four Corners area of Mansfield, that is an opportunity zone. Obviously, they put in the septic or the sewage there, the water. So it wouldn't make sense to build in that area, I guess, doing it in a smart and efficient way. But there's a lot of great stuff, but a lot of it, I don't want to say fluff, but that's the only word I can think of right now, is they've put a lot of stuff into this document and this vision, but it's a lot of stuff that we're already not doing. So I don't know. It just seems like more bureaucracy, so to speak.
So now, in your anticipation of winning this election coming up here in a couple of weeks, what do you think you're going to be able to do as a town council member, since we know that we have experienced in the past some difficulty in working with people in Mansfield on the town council? What do you think you're going to be able to do differently?
So if I should win, and I've got a couple different theories on how I think this is going to play out, and there are two new town council members on the Democratic side that are running, and the other two incumbents didn't run. So if I do win, I hope to try to just meet with them. I've reached out, hey, come to events, let's talk, let's debate, because I think we can still, if we get to our shared values and our constitutional principles, I guess is the best way to put it, that there might be some common ground where we can work together. Because right now it's 8-1. If you watch any of the votes, it's 8 voting against Brian Coleman, who's running as an unaffiliated this time as a council member. And that's why I had such an issue with the two incumbents. One will wordsmith stuff to death and then just vote with the Democrats. So it's like you're watching a video of the town council. You're like, okay, you've just wasted like 15 minutes of my life, and you just voted with them anyways. Why waste the time? Just vote with them. Yeah. And the same with the other one. They rubber stamp everything. So I'm hoping whoever does win for the Republican side, or even the unaffiliated, that we can caucus ahead of time. We can sit and say, okay, this is what the agenda is. What are some things that we want to pull out of this? What are some things that we find concerning? Because there's a lot of money that exchanges hands. Like, we had just I think it was 1.5 million come back from the Board of Ed to the town, and it's just going to get spent however they want. So there's some things there that I think we just need to really pull on the fiscal purse straps, so to speak, because seeing what's happening nationally with Trump taking some of this anti-terrorist money and keeping it and distributing it to more red states than blue states, because they're sanctuary states, just like Connecticut says they're not, but they are. We're paying for it. Mansfield comes out and says they're a sanctuary town. If a lot of that funding starts to dry up, 42% of our budget in Mansfield comes from payment in lieu of taxes from UConn. Right. Wow. That money's going to start drying up if we don't start doing the right thing. Yeah. And so we'll see where it goes, but it should be interesting come November 4th. Very good. Well, best of luck to you. Time for one more question before we take our break here. Any discussion that people are having with you about parking concerns in the downtown stores area? Because that's one of the things that I'm really hearing. Even last year when I talked to UConn students, people who were visiting the downtown stores area, I know this has been an issue for a number of years. Is that still one of the big complaints you're hearing about it? People still complain. I have people tell me I don't even go to that side of town. I'll drive around. I'll take Chaffeeville to Gurleyville, out that way to get around going through stores. I myself, because my truck has my name all over it right now, I drive through stores. Normally I would take the side roads around. So like where I'm at, if I have to go to Big Y or the grocery store, I don't necessarily want to go through UConn. So I'll go to Tolland, unless I'm already on that side of town. And people all the time like, I don't go downtown. There's nothing there for the residents. There's no parking. You got the parking garage. I think like the first hour is free, maybe 2 hours, and then you get charged. But even that money that you pay for park in the parking garage doesn't go to Mansfield. It goes to Pro Park. Yeah. But we have to maintain the building. There's just certain things that don't make sense to me. Yeah. If we're going to have that parking garage and people are going to be paying to park down there, that should be revenue to the town, not to Pro Park. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's the arrangements that are made, right? Yeah. Backroom deals, and it's one of those things where people still complain. Like, I hate the down in Mansfield. You either like the downtown or you don't. There's really not too many people in between, and so a lot of people are just I don't go there because of the parking. I can't find a place to park. I drive around. And then you got students everywhere that are on their phones walking into traffic. So that's another hazard.
All right. If anybody would like to contact you, Aaron, do you have a website and information that I can provide to our listening audience if they want to reach out to you with any questions they might have about Mansfield?
Yeah. So you can go to the mansfieldway.org, I believe is the web address. That's newer, or you can just find me by just typing in my name into Google, Aaron Bowman, and it's gonna give you a whole bunch of stuff to look at. So Bowman for Mansfield on Facebook, also that page is still up. So yeah.
Very good. Well, best of luck to you in the next couple of weeks. We look forward to the election on November 4th. We're coming up to our first commercial break. This is Right Now with Chris Reddy, Mike DeSaulnier, Curtis Ayler, and we have our special guest in studio, Aaron Bowman, 1400 AM, 95.3 FM WILI.
And welcome back to Right Now with Curtis Ayler, Mike DeSonia, and Chris Reddy here on WILI 1400 and 95.3 FM. Okay, so we're back. We just got done talking to Aaron Bowman, who's running for town council in the town of Mansfield. Now it's time to turn our attention to Wyndham issues. Mike, how you feeling about our fiscal position? How you feeling about our budget so far?
It's really concerning. We just went into this new budget cycle. We're already in the hole. It looks like, we're over $1 million, and it looks like, we're trending towards that more 3.5 for going in. And I know we just gave out a bunch of raises the other day.
That's right. Our budgets here in Wyndham, our general government and our Board of Ed budgets just passed on September 30th. On paper, flat budgets with an additional 1.3 in anticipated bonding. So debt we'll pay for later. So that was on September 30th. Just 1 week later, Mike and I were at a town council meeting. We were talking about multiple rounds of raises. We were talking about the unanticipated new early voting location that the town is obligated to open up at Eastern. Mike, do you want to explain to everybody what's going on with early voting here in the town now?
Well, yeah. So the state came up with last year 14 days of early voting, which really took a toll on a lot of the smaller towns because, as you know, this is not a funded mandate by the state. This is something that's put on the backs of the towns and the municipality. And we are a college town, just like Mansfield. So there was a big push to put a second location on these college towns. We dodged the bullet last year. Our registrars, both the Democrat and Republican registrar, worked hard, and they showed that it was not needed last year. The numbers weren't there for a second location.
If I remember right, the town council, this is back when it was voluntary last year,
right,
to open the second early voting location. The town council, it was a unanimous decision?
It was a unanimous, yes, and it was actually that night, it was a full Democrat slate there because our Republican, Tony Fantoli, had a death in the family.
That's right.
There was some other issues going on. So we had no representation, and they voted it down unanimously. It was not in the cards for Willimantic Wyndham. This year, it was pushed at the Senate level. The Senate, our state senator May Flexer, pushed hard, along with Susan Johnson, to get it put in. Our mayor, Tommy DeVivo, he pushed hard to get this second location in on the campus because he felt that them dorms being separated by a fence and a gate were too far for those college students to walk.
For people that are listening from outside of Wyndham, the Wyndham Town Hall literally touches the Eastern Campus. The only thing that separates the Eastern Campus is a chain link fence with a gate in it.
Yeah.
And yet still, our town is obligated to have a second early voting location on the other side of that fence.
Right, and this has taken a big impact on the town.
Big money, if I understand
big
right.
money. I mean, you're talking $100,000 in payroll for these early voting locations.
A lot of people don't know this. 7 people potentially is the number that needs to staff a polling place now.
I'm not exactly positive on that, but that's what I think I heard, somewhere around 7-8 people.
And plus the registrars who,
plus the
who have to get paid
registrars
to
who-
oversee them and
right.
plan, set up, break down, be accountable.
And I know the registrars put in because they needed some help. They're overworked, and they compare the registrar's fees in these in towns, town to town. One thing they don't take into consideration is a lot of towns, bigger towns, or towns similar to us, actually hire out a lot of the work that they do too. So we're lucky in that aspect that our registrars do everything in house.
And a great job too.
They do a great job. But the financial end of it is we're paying a lot, and I really wish that our representatives, the state senator, would have, when they fought for these locations, maybe fought for some funding to go along with it. For we are a small, struggling community, and we can't handle anymore.
And by every designation, we're a distressed municipality. Most years, over the last 5-10 years, we've been the #1 most distressed municipality in Connecticut. That's Wyndham that we're talking about here. And yet, we're given yet another unfunded mandate from the state to open up this early voting location. So talking about the early voting location and the anticipated raises for staff members in the town hall, right off the rip, 1 week into having a new budget, where we were looking at $110,000+ in the hole. That is on top of other issues that are going on, Mike. I know that there's been crickets from the town council about the issues with our town employees' health care. The town employees that are on the self-insured or formerly self-insured health care pool. We were once grouped together, our town staff, with the Board of Ed employees. The Board of Ed employees at the end of last fiscal year made a decision to separate from the rest of our employees and leave the healthcare plan, which left us in the hole. We're projecting $500,000 for this fiscal year, and I believe we're still calculating how much we're short from last fiscal year.
Right, and it was so. Not only is the that extra we're putting out, but that lost revenue that was caused. I mean, you're looking at $1 million in lost revenue, and it just it really bugs me that we've got local politicians that are doing this stuff. You have two that are right in on it. Who pushed it. Lynn Ide, who is the chair of the Board of Ed, has been pushing this for quite some time. And
the separation from the health.
The separation and going to that. Mark Doyle, he's right on the Board of Ed, pushed right for it. And to drive the town into that kind of financial loss, it just, I can't understand it, And now we're going to pay for that. The our town employees are going to pay for that, and the residents are going to pay for that for years to come.
So we're already looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in shortfall in this budget. Other unanticipated costs that the finance director is tabulating right now. We're definitely overspent for quarter one here in the town of Wyndham, but the picture doesn't get any better. There were a lot of tricks in this most recent budget to present something on paper that looked like a zero budget for the general government, but we're going to have to pay for later. A lot of people don't realize this. The community center and senior center are new buildings here on Main Street in Willimantic. Over $220,000 in electric bills last year, not including heating fuel costs. Those projections on spends for electricity and heating fuel in our current budget this fiscal year, over $100,000 less than in last year's budget book and our actual spend. So unless they're planning on keeping half the lights out in the building and keeping the temperature down below 50 degrees inside that building, there was some funny math in order to get to zero in the town general government, and someone's going to have to pay for it. If it's the new town council, if the idea is that the town is going to be asking the taxpayers for more money, who knows? We don't really know. What we do know is we're coming into this fiscal year in the hole,
Right, and you know, and with these cuts and the way they've done it, and the way they've projected this new budget, I can't see anything for preventive maintenance type of things for our infrastructure. And this is the stuff that's got us into the problem that we're in now. You look at the different projects around, the footbridge and all these issues that just were not. They were maintenance issues. A lot of our schools, maintenance issues. We have. The senior center right now, brand new building with a failing roof. So you have your mechanical failures that are going to have to be addressed, and there's not much of that in the budget. You don't see that. We're not seeing real figures on electric bills, the things that are going to come up. And these are questions that were asked when the garage was built, when the senior center was built, when everything, the stage. When everything is built and all the shiny projects are brought out and brought to light, the question's always been, what's it going to cost to maintain these? What's it going to cost for the employees? And nobody ever has them numbers. The Barrows School. Every project that's come up, the real numbers are never there. All we see is that number, the shiny project, and that base number, without the add-ons, and it's scary the direction that the town's going in.
That's why whoever comes into the new town council, election day is coming up on November 4th. Everybody, if we don't already have that on our calendars, mark it now. Whoever comes in for our town council, we're going to need some real disciplined people in place to get us through this. If we're already coming in the hole, if we already know that we've cut to the bone on things like preventive maintenance. Other infrastructure issues. This is going to require some real serious thought for how we're going to move forward as a town.
Without a doubt. I mean, the incoming town council. They're not going to have a easy time at balancing a budget. They're going to have their hands full because
paying for the mistakes of the ones before.
Right. You're going to pay for the mistakes. It's going to look bad, and. It's just the facts.
Hey, that's why I'm excited, though, honestly, because this is the first election year since I can remember, and I'm not a young man anymore. This is the first election year since I can remember that the Republicans are putting up enough people running in the town of Windham to actually take the majority in the town council. It's a real big move. It's time for a change. People are saying, and we've got some real motivated people here in town council. I'm sorry, we're getting close to time?
No, we got 15 minutes.
Okay, fantastic. I saw some hand motions.
No, you're good.
Gotcha. All right, so we've got an exciting new crew running for town council, the Republicans, with a great new mayoral candidate.
Yeah,
Haley DeSonia, who I'm really happy to be able to endorse today. She has my support 100%. What a positive, hardworking person, sharp, good speaker, wants the best for our community, working so hard on this campaign, door to door, online, doing meet and greets, doing rallies. I mean, this candidate is showing us what a mayoral candidate ought to be.
And you talk about, you just mentioned that, and I happen to be really close to that candidate.
Oh, you don't say.
I'm being her dad. And a question was asked in a public forum, and I wasn't there, nor was her mother, who is the registrar of voters. And they asked her what she thought about, and did she support the pay raise for the registrar of voters. And I thought for sure, I said, she's going to say yes, and they're going to say, oh, I thought you were conservative. And, she came out and she said, given the position of the town right now, I think we should hold off. It's not about what they deserve, what they did, or anything. She says, we do not have the funds to fund this right now properly, so let's hit the brakes and see what's going on. And she said, but there again, I would only be one vote, so I'd have to hope that everybody else would think the same way I do.
And that's the truth of the matter. A lot of people think the mayor is some kind of king here in town. It's not. I mean, that's not an unreasonable thing to think. When you think mayor, you think the boss. That's not how Windham works.
Right. It's not like a lot of people thinking. I read social media all the time, and they News Channel 3. So there's people from other states, and I think they're thinking of a mayor like a Rudy Giuliani type of thing. And,
that's right.
they don't realize. And somebody did put on one of the local posts that the job description of our mayor.
I saw that.
The ceremonial thing, and and they run that meeting, and they present agendas. They bring the agenda from the town council to the town manager. They sit with the town manager and they put them on. And I actually think that the mayor position in our town is a great entrance role for a younger person who wants to into politics. Because let's face it, when you go on something like the Board of Ed and things like that, you have to go on knowing a lot of
so many
rules and laws, and just to go in with no experience on a board like that, it's tough. Finance, you have to have a big financial background. I liked her answer on the when she was asked what she would do with the bonding and all that, and she did say she would rely on the legislative body that was elected, the Board of Finance in the town council, and and she would look up and research on how she voted.
And that's really what you want. You don't want someone that has a strong idea and they're gonna be my way or the highway, because that's not how our town government works. And we are an 11-member town council. Responsibilities split up with a Board of Finance, a Board of Education that's completely divorced from that. We have a lot of fingers in the pie of our government, and there's no one person that's going to be able to run things my way or the highway. You need someone that's looking at things with a fresh set of eyes, no entrenched opinions or maybe grudges against other people, just someone that wants to get everyone on board. And Haley's got that. The ability to work across the aisle. That's the sort of position, the mayor, that needs to work across the aisle, that you want someone with a clean slate, with a fresh perspective, without any of that baggage that maybe some of us who've been in the game too long have.
Sure.
I agree. To bring it back real quick to registrar of voters and voting, I agree with you guys. This is a problem across the district that I talked to people about last year. The small towns are struggling not only to keep their registrar of voters, who realize that this time commitment has gone up so significantly between last year and this year. That doesn't look like it's going to change. Like, we tried to get some sort of legislative relief from having to be mandated for 2 weeks of early voting in some small towns. You look at some of these smaller outlying towns around Windham and Mansfield. It was last year a dozen people that came in and voted early, and you're paying people to staff those election centers for 2 weeks. It's another problem of one-size-fits-all type legislation in Connecticut. And that's one of the big concerns that I have, is that they're creating a situation now where they're saying, this is the expectations. We want 2 weeks of early voting for every single town, regardless of your population, how many people you have as registered voters coming in to vote early. And
when you already have no excuse absentee balloting.
Correct.
You can walk into our town hall with or without early voting right now. Get yourself an absentee ballot. Vote right there. Slide it in the slot right in front of our town hall. That's early voting, right?
Yeah.
But yet we have to have another process on top of that at the exact same time, at the exact same place, at very, very heavy expense to our poor little town.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely voting centers across Connecticut that would benefit accessibility for voters from having 2 weeks. When you look at cities like New Haven and Bridgeport and Hartford.
Yeah, we used to see the lines out the door on the TV news on election day. That
2 weeks of early voting. That's fine. But in a small rural town of 1,600 people, do we need 2 weeks of early voting? Could we have legislative mandates that are changed so that, have a Saturday and Sunday, have one weekend available, so people who are working Monday through Friday, something comes up with childcare or whatever, and you can't get to vote on election day. We can definitely have options, but does it have to be mandated for every single town to have 2 weeks of early voting? My concern is that what we're ultimately looking at here is a situation where it's going to be so difficult for some of these small towns to find and elect registrars of voters, that it's going to be something that's taken away from these small towns, and that kind of that confidence in the voting system and the electoral process is going to be diminished when we're all of a sudden saying, well, we need to regionalize this, and now we need to have the state come in and say, well, you aren't able to do this on your own, so now we're going to be the ones who are going to come in and take over.
And it almost seems like it's they're doing that by design,
Right.
Because that's was something that was proposed by the last Secretary of State, and then it was pushed off. But it almost seems like they are pushing these mandates on the smaller towns. So finally, the small towns say, "Okay, yes, let's you do it. You give us your state person." And now, yes, there are going to be concerns on is this being done fairly? Is this being done the way it should be? And there's got to be something done. But you look at small towns like Union, 600 voters, 14 days of early voting for 600 voters, and at what cost? Although Union was dispersed $6,000 from the state, where a town like ours, over 20,000, 2 voting locations, college campus, a high turnover rate in citizens moving out and coming and going, and we only received just over $10,000. So a town like Greenwich, who received almost $30,000 from the state.
Right.
No colleges, no anything. So there's got to be some kind of matrix, and it's just I really wish that during this process, the people who were so vocal on this second location would have been vocal about getting our town some sort of funding for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that funding dried up last year. That was it. That was, to get you started, but now we're on our own.
Yep.
And like I said, these mandates continue to come down from state legislature on us and hurting these small towns.
And that's something we can expect, these mandates. We see it year after year. They come down at the state's will. We know that the state's going to have a special session coming up. Now, is this the end of November, I'm hearing? Mid-November?
Yeah, I haven't heard the exact date that it'll be starting yet.
Okay, so
but
it's still
there
negotiating.
Yeah, but there's, and that's one of the big concerns with this special session that's upcoming. One of the main topics is going to be the housing bill, and that was vetoed by Lamont. We've been in the dark for what information is in there. It's been very much a closed negotiation process for the past 100 and we're approaching 20 days that they've been working on this and how they're going to present this in a special session. But you're right, that's something that will be coming up here. There'll be some other topics that will be discussed at that same point during that special session. But we have some, big concerns out here in Eastern Connecticut because, as you guys have mentioned, not just in this senatorial district, Windham being a distressed community, there are other ones that are labeled as distressed financial communities that really need to not be burdened by the unfunded mandates that the state pushes on our education, on our voting. This is a struggle for all of us.
So these are the whims that small towns in Eastern Connecticut and across the state really are a victim to, that we have to be really laser focused on. And whoever this new town council coming in on November 4th, after November 4th, these are the sort of things that they're going to have to be ready for in the budget environment that we're in. Speaking of being at the whims of the state, Mike, you and I had an interesting talk last night about our most recent school construction project that wrapped up here in town. That's the Windham High School renovated as new.
Right.
One of the big hallmark achievements by our state delegation, gets brought up frequently, is the 95% reimbursement rate on qualifying expenses on the Windham High School renovated as new project that just wrapped up. Right.
How are we, like you brought up, how are we designated, and is that a truthful 95%? Are we actually going to get that?
Well, I encourage all Windham residents to look into the finance director's most recent report on the 95% reimbursement rate, because the Department of Administrative Services came knocking to have us prove that we meet the qualifications of the 95% reimbursement rate. And according to our finance director, there are some questions. That's going to be us at the whim of the states again. The state delegation being able to negotiate whether or not we actually do get that 95% reimbursement rate. These are the sort of things that a small town like us, the whims that we're up against the state, and the whims of the whims and the will of our state delegation. It is a tricky environment here. So we got to remember that. To look out for, not just for the high school project, but this potential new elementary school that we're looking at too. So be safe out there, everyone, and pay attention.
Do you have any idea what the fiscal impact might be from that 95% reimbursement rate if you don't qualify?
Well, you don't want to know. Was the answer that the finance director gave when asked that question by the Board of Finance last night.
All right.
You don't want to know.
You don't want to know.
So here again, we've got to buckle down. We need to have the answers before we come up with the projects. And we don't have a plan. We don't have any. There's nothing out there for the general public except a question on a ballot that is actually leading. If you read that question on that ballot, it is leading a strong one way to vote yes on this project. This is for your children. It's not saying that anything about that.
You can go on the public schools website right now, Wyndham Public Schools website, where they have a presentation on the new consolidated elementary school. And Mike and I can attest, because we were in these public hearings about the elementary school consolidation project that we're voting on in November. The promise made verbally at every one of these hearings was, this is going to save our public school system millions. Will they put it in writing? Will they put it on paper? Read that presentation. You can read it cover to cover. They will not commit to putting it in print that this project will save the town a dime.
That's right.
We're coming up to the top of the hour here. We'll be ending our show in just a moment. Do you have any upcoming events going on here in the town of Wyndham politically that you would like to advertise to our listening audience?
Friday, is it 6:30 or
6:30?
Friday, 6:30 at the French Club on Club Road. We have a Meet the Candidates night. There's been a lot of people that want to meet and talk to Haley and get their own perspective on her. That's the night to do it. There will be other candidates there from town council and in other positions running. It's open to everyone. We really want people to show up and ask the tough questions. And other candidates are also invited. It's a Meet the Candidates night. We're open, and we like to see everyone.
Okay, great. We look forward to seeing everybody on Friday night. This has been Right Now with Chris Reddy, Mike DeSaunier, and Curtis Ayler. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.